Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
So there I was, sitting in one of the city's most expensive steakhouses, watching my wife transform into someone I barely recognized. 12 years of marriage, and I thought I knew every version of her. Apparently, I was wrong. Tonight was supposed to be our anniversary. I'd made reservations at the small Italian place where I proposed, bought tickets to the show she'd been wanting to see, even picked up the bracelet she'd been eyeing for months. Instead, I was wedged into the corner of a booth at Meridian Prime, watching her perform for an audience of 3 women who'd never liked me. I should have known from the seating arrangement. When we arrived, her friends were already there. The booth they'd chosen forced me to sit across from all 4 of them, like I was being interviewed for a position I'd already failed to get. My wife slid in next to them without hesitation, and the way they closed ranks told me everything about my role tonight. I wasn't here as her husband. I was here as the guy picking up the tab. The first joke came before we even ordered drinks. The ringleader, a corporate lawyer with a smile like broken glass, tilted her head at me with mock surprise. Wow, she actually got you to show up on your anniversary? Most men try to forget these things. The table erupted in laughter. My wife's was loudest, her hand touching the lawyer's arm in shared amusement. I smiled back, keeping my voice pleasant. Well, I figured if I'm going to be forgotten, might as well make sure everyone's well-fed first. The silence lasted maybe 2 seconds. Not enough to land, but enough to create a small crack in their rhythm. The lawyer's smile tightened, but she recovered quickly. A man with a sense of humor. How refreshing. The waiter appeared, and I noticed my wife ordering the most expensive items on the menu. So did her friends. Appetizers, entrees, the premium wine list. Each addition felt deliberate, a test I was apparently supposed to pass by staying quiet and reaching for my wallet. I'd requested a nice table for our anniversary dinner. What I got was a front-row seat to my own roasting. The second friend, a stay-at-home mom who laughed too hard at everything, leaned forward with exaggerated curiosity. So, what grand romantic gesture did you plan for tonight? Let me guess, dinner and a movie? Before I could answer, my wife jumped in. Oh, he wanted to do the whole traditional thing. Italian restaurant, show tickets, the works. She waved her hand dismissively. I told him this would be more fun. More fun, right. Sitting here being evaluated by her jury while they passed judgment on my romantic capabilities was definitely more fun than celebrating 12 years together. Traditional romance is so outdated, the lawyer said, examining her wine glass. Women don't need to be wooed anymore. We have our own money, our own lives. I caught the waiter's eye and saw something there. Sympathy, maybe, or recognition of a situation he'd witnessed before. The third friend had been quiet so far, but I could see her discomfort. She was the only one among them with what seemed like a decent marriage. She kept glancing between me and my wife like she was watching a car accident in slow motion. Well, I said carefully, I thought maybe my wife might want to celebrate our anniversary together. Apparently, I was wrong. My wife's expression flickered, irritation that I'd pushed back, even slightly. She recovered with a laugh that sounded like wind chimes made of ice. See? This is why I need girls' night. Someone has to balance out all that sentimentality. Girls' night. On our anniversary. That she'd rescheduled without telling me until this morning. The appetizers arrived, and so did the real attacks. You know what I don't understand, the enabler said, gesturing with her fork, is how you got someone like her to settle down. I mean, no offense, but she's clearly out of your league. The table went quiet, waiting for my response. My wife didn't defend me. She just sipped her wine, a small smile playing at her lips. None taken, I said. I ask myself the same question. Usually right before I look at our bank account and remember. The lawyer choked on her wine. The quiet friend looked away, and my wife's face went hard. That's not funny. Neither was what she said. But here we are. The waiter returned with our entrees, and I could feel the temperature at the table dropping. But instead of backing down, they doubled down. That's when I knew this wasn't spontaneous teasing that got out of hand. This was planned. I think someone's feeling a little insecure tonight, the lawyer said, her voice dripping with false concern. Masculinity is so fragile, isn't it? Is that your professional opinion? I asked. Because I heard your last 3 relationships ended when they got tired of being cross-examined. Her face went white. My wife kicked me under the table, but not in a playful way. This was a warning. Stop embarrassing her in front of her friends. Stop defending yourself against their attacks. Just sit there and take it like you're supposed to. That's when I realized something cold and clear. This wasn't about them. This was about her. She'd invited them here to do what she couldn't do directly. Tell me exactly what she thought of me, using their voices as cover. The enabler tried to rescue her friend. Look at him getting all defensive. Classic male fragility. Can't handle a little girl talk. Girl talk, I repeated slowly. Is that what we're calling coordinated attacks now? Because where I come from, girl talk is supportive. This feels more like an ambush. Oh my God, you're so dramatic, my wife said, but her voice was shaking slightly. If you can't handle my friends, maybe you should have stayed home. Maybe I should have, but then I wouldn't have seen this clearly. I wouldn't have understood that the woman I married had been slowly erasing me, joke by joke, eye roll by eye roll, until I became nothing more than a convenient funding source for her real life. The quiet friend finally spoke up, her voice soft. Maybe we should talk about something else. But the lawyer was on a roll now, emboldened by my wife's implicit permission to continue. No, let's talk about this. Because I think it's fascinating how some men can be married to successful, independent women and still feel threatened by their friendships. Threatened, I said, cutting into my steak with more force than necessary. That's an interesting interpretation. I'm not threatened by friendships. I'm just observing how those friendships seem to require putting me down to build you up. See, the enabler pointed at me like I'd just proven her point. He can't even let her have one night with her friends without making it about him. This is our anniversary, I said quietly. She made it about her friends. My wife's face flushed red. That's not fair. You're making me sound like a terrible person. I'm not making you sound like anything. I'm just stating facts. The entrees sat getting cold as the confrontation escalated. Other diners were starting to notice. A couple at the next table kept glancing over, the woman's expression sympathetic. You want to talk about facts? The lawyer leaned forward. Here's a fact. Your wife deserves better than someone who can't handle her having her own social life. Another fact. I responded, my voice dropping to that calm, controlled tone that made people nervous. I've never once objected to her social life. I've encouraged it, funded it, supported it. What I object to is being treated like an ATM with legs. Silence. The enabler broke it first, her voice shrill with indignation. Oh, so now you're keeping score? How typical. I paid for this, I funded that. This is why women can't stand men sometimes. Keeping score would imply I expected something in return, I said. I don't. I just didn't expect active contempt as a reward for showing up. Active contempt? My wife's laugh was brittle. You're being ridiculous. I'm sitting here having dinner with people I care about. If that threatens you, it doesn't threaten me. What concerns me is that you care more about impressing them than respecting me. The lawyer jumped back in, sensing blood in the water. And there it is. The real issue. You can't handle that she doesn't need you for validation anymore. She has friends, a life, opinions of her own. She's always had those things, I said. What she apparently doesn't have anymore is basic consideration for the person she married. Consideration? My wife's voice rose. I consider you all the time. I invited you tonight, didn't I? You invited me to pay for your entertainment while you and your friends explained everything that's wrong with me. That's not consideration. That's exploitation. The quiet friend shifted in her seat. Maybe we should all just take a breath. No. The lawyer cut her off. I want to hear this. I want to hear how he's being exploited by being married to a successful, independent woman who doesn't worship the ground he walks on. I never asked for worship, I said. I asked for respect. There's a difference. My wife slammed her palm on the table, rattling the silverware. You have my respect. Do I? Because from where I'm sitting, respect looks different than this. Then what? Me having friends? Me having fun? Me not centering my entire existence around you? Then you using our anniversary as an opportunity to demonstrate to your friends how little you think of me. The enabler gasped like I'd slapped her. How dare you? She loves you. She's sitting here defending you. She hasn't defended me once tonight. I interrupted. She's participated in every attack. She's encouraged them. She's added her own. That's not love. That's performance art. The quiet friend looked down at her plate. The enabler's mouth opened and closed, and the lawyer's eyes narrowed to slits. How dare you? My wife whispered. How dare I what? Point out that you invited me to an expensive dinner on our anniversary, and made it clear the only reason I'm here is to pay for it? That's not what I said. Then what would you call it? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because we both knew I was right. The mask had slipped earlier when she'd said someone had to pay for dinner. She'd played it off as a joke, but jokes are just truths we're not supposed to take seriously. Dessert arrived, and with it came the final phase of the evening's entertainment. The lawyer had given up on subtlety entirely. "You know what your problem is?" she said, pointing at me with her dessert spoon. "You don't know how to handle a strong woman. My ex-husband had the same issue, always trying to control who I spent time with." "I'm not trying to control anyone," I said. "I'm just refusing to participate in my own humiliation anymore." "Humiliation?" My wife's voice rose. "Oh my God, you're so dramatic. We're just having fun." "Are you having fun?" I looked directly at her. "Because you look more alive right now than you have in months. Like tearing down your husband in public is the best entertainment you've had all year." The lawyer's eyes narrowed. "Maybe if you were more interesting, she wouldn't need us to liven things up." "Interesting," I repeated. "Is that what you call this?" "Because I'd call it mean-spirited at best and sociopathic at worst." The enabler gasped. "Did you just call us sociopaths?" "If the shoe fits," I said, borrowing my wife's earlier phrase. "You've spent 2 hours systematically attacking someone you barely know for the entertainment value. What would you call that?" "I'd call it honesty," the lawyer shot back. "Maybe that's what bothers you. That we're saying what everyone's thinking but too polite to mention." "Everyone's thinking I'm inadequate?" "Really?" "Because earlier today, my boss told me I'm getting promoted. My brother called to thank me for helping with his mortgage. My neighbor asked if I could mentor his son. But sure, you three are the real judges of my worth." My wife's face twisted with something ugly. "Always the victim. Always making everything about how hard your life is." "I never said my life was hard. I said being disrespected by my own wife is unacceptable. Those are different things." "Disrespected," she scoffed. "Because I don't treat you like you're God's gift to women? Because I have my own opinions? Because I don't perform the dutiful little wife routine?" "No," I said quietly. "Because you treat me like I'm disposable. Like I'm here to serve a function and shut up about it. Like the only value I bring is the ability to pay for your lifestyle." The table went silent. Even the lawyer seemed momentarily at a loss for words. The restaurant was watching now. I could feel dozens of eyes on our table. The waiter had stopped approaching. Even the busboy was keeping his distance. "You're making a scene," my wife hissed. "People are staring. People are staring because your friends have been treating me like a punching bag for the last hour, and you've been cheering them on." The enabler jumped in. "If you can't handle a little teasing, that's your problem. Women shouldn't have to walk on eggshells around fragile male egos." "Teasing," I said, "requires affection. What you've been doing requires malice." The quiet friend shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should just finish dessert and—" "No," the lawyer cut her off. "I want to know why he thinks he can talk to us like this." "Like what?" I asked. "Like equals. Like people who should treat others with basic respect." My wife slammed her hand on the table. "That's it. I'm done with this. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends." "I'm embarrassing you." "Yes, you are. If you can't tolerate my friends making a few jokes, then maybe you're not the man I thought I married." There it was. The truth she'd been dancing around all night. I wasn't the man she thought she married because that man would have sat here quietly, paid the bill, and accepted whatever scraps of respect she threw his way. The lawyer smiled like she'd scored a winning point. "Exactly. If you can't take a joke, just pay the bill and go." My wife nodded, her eyes bright with vindication. "Yes. If you can't handle it, pay and go." The words hung in the air between us. Pay and go. Like I was a service provider whose contract was being terminated. Like 12 years of marriage came down to a transaction that could be concluded with a credit card and a door. I stood up. The movement was sudden enough that everyone at nearby tables looked over. My wife's expression shifted from triumph to uncertainty. Her friends exchanged glances, clearly expecting me to pull out my wallet and slink away like a properly chastised husband. Instead, I looked at my wife's left hand. At the engagement ring I'd saved for 6 months to buy. The one I'd chosen because she said it was perfect. The one that was supposed to symbolize a lifetime of partnership and respect. "Sell that ring," I said clearly, loudly enough for everyone to hear. "It'll cover your part." My wife's face drained of all color. "What? You heard me. Sell that ring. It'll cover your part." Your friends can split the rest. Call it an anniversary gift to yourself. I started to walk away. My wife grabbed my arm, her grip desperate. You're not serious. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then into her eyes. For the first time all night, I saw fear there. Real fear. The sudden understanding that she'd pushed too hard and fallen off the edge of something she couldn't climb back from. I've never been more serious in my life. I removed her hand from my arm, gently but firmly. Not cruel, just final. The lawyer found her voice. You can't just leave her here. What kind of man abandons his wife? I turned to face her. The kind who was told to pay and go. She made the choice. She can live with it. The enabler stood up. This is ridiculous. You're throwing a tantrum over nothing. If it's nothing, I said, then you won't mind paying for it. I walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard my wife's voice rising in panic, but I didn't look back. The other diners watched me pass. Some looked disapproving, but more than a few, especially the women, looked at me with something like respect. The cool night air hit my face like a baptism. I stood in the parking lot for a moment, breathing deeply, feeling lighter than I had in years. Through the restaurant's windows, I could see chaos erupting at our table. My wife was standing now, gesturing frantically. Her friends were huddled around her. The waiter was approaching with the check. I got in my car, started the engine, and pulled out of the parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I saw my wife burst out of the restaurant, phone to her ear, looking desperately for my car. Too late. My phone started buzzing before I even reached the highway. I glanced at it. My wife calling. I sent it to voicemail and kept driving. The drive home was surreal. I turned on music, rolled down the windows, and let the night air clear my head. My phone kept buzzing in the cup holder, a steady rhythm of notification sounds that might have bothered me if I wasn't feeling so completely, crystalline clear about what had just happened. She'd finally said what she really thought, and I'd finally stopped accepting it. I pulled over at a red light and checked my phone. 43 missed calls, 87 text messages, all from my wife and her friends. I scrolled through them, watching the progression like a psychological case study in real time. First came anger. Get back here right now. This is ridiculous. You're embarrassing yourself. Then confusion. This isn't funny anymore. I don't understand what's happening. Why aren't you answering? Then bargaining. Okay, maybe they went too far. Just come back. We can talk about this like adults. I'll make them apologize. Then panic. Please answer your phone. They won't accept my card, it's maxed out. Everyone is staring at me. And finally, the messages that told me everything I needed to know. I had to call my sister to bring her card. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Are you happy now? The irony was so thick, I actually laughed out loud. She was worried about being humiliated now, after spending an entire evening orchestrating mine. I put the phone in the glove compartment and kept driving. Whatever she had to say could wait. Forever, if necessary. When I got home, I poured myself a drink and sat in my study, looking at our wedding photo on the shelf. We looked happy in that picture. Young and stupid, and convinced that love was enough. Turns out respect matters more. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Hello. Mr. A pause. This is Thomas from Meridian Prime. I wanted to let you know that your wife settled the bill. Thank you for letting me know. Sir, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I overheard what happened tonight. You did the right thing. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. We get a lot of anniversary dinners here. That wasn't one. That was an execution. After he hung up, I sat there for a long time, thinking about how a stranger saw more clearly in 2 hours what I'd been slowly accepting for years. My phone rang again. My wife's sister. I answered. Hello. What the hell happened? Her voice was sharp, but not hostile. Confused more than angry. Ask your sister. I did. She said you walked out on her for no reason. No reason. Did she mention the part where she told me to pay the bill and leave if I couldn't handle her friends making jokes at my expense? Long silence. She said that, word for word, in front of a crowded restaurant, after spending an hour watching them tear me down while she participated. More silence. Then, quietly, she made it sound like you exploded over nothing. I did explode, but not over nothing. Over everything. Over years of being taken for granted until tonight, when she finally said what she really thinks of me. I had no idea. Most people don't. She's very good at performing for an audience. Her sister sighed. What happens now? Now she figures out what life looks like without the man she told to leave. I hung up before she could respond. I was done explaining myself, done justifying my decision to leave a situation where I was openly disrespected, done being the reasonable one who had to make everyone else comfortable with my boundaries. The messages kept coming. Different numbers now. Her friends had clearly decided to coordinate their response. The lawyer, you're pathetic. Real men don't abandon their wives over hurt feelings. I responded to that one. Real women don't humiliate their husbands for entertainment. But I guess we're both learning new definitions tonight. She wrote back immediately. She's devastated. She's been crying for hours. Good. Now she knows how it feels. The lawyer, you're cruel. No, I'm done. There's a difference. The enabler tried next. You need to understand, we were just trying to help her. She's been so unhappy. By tearing down her husband? Interesting therapy technique. By showing her she deserves better than someone who makes her walk on eggshells. I made her walk on eggshells? Is that the story you're all going with? She's afraid to be herself around you. The person I saw tonight seemed pretty comfortable being herself. That's the problem. Even the quiet friend, I think you overreacted. She loves you. Love without respect is just dependence. She loves what I provide. That's not the same thing. I blocked each number systematically, watching the attempts to break through my boundaries get more desperate with each failed contact. Then I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I knew what was coming. She'd tell her version of events. The poor wife whose husband had a meltdown on their anniversary. I needed the truth protected. At midnight, I called my lawyer's emergency line. This is going to sound dramatic, I told his voicemail. But my 12-year marriage ended tonight. I need an emergency consultation as soon as possible. Prepare for a contested divorce with significant assets involved. Then I called my financial advisor and left a similar message. By 1 a.m, I'd secured every account, protected every investment, and documented every shared asset. My wife kept trying. Each new number brought a different tactic. Please, I know I messed up. Can we just talk? You're destroying our marriage over one bad night. What if I promise never to see them again? I'm sorry. Please come home. But she wasn't sorry. Not really. She was sorry she'd said the quiet part loud. Sorry there were consequences. Sorry she'd lost her convenient lifestyle funding. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. Just sorry she'd been caught doing it. At 3:30 in the morning, I finally went to bed in the guest room. Not because I was making a statement, but because the master bedroom belonged to people who no longer existed. The couple who'd shared that room was gone. Ended the moment she chose her audience over her husband. I slept better than I had in months. When I woke up, my phone showed 127 new messages and 94 missed calls. I deleted them all without reading. Then I showered, dressed, and prepared for my lawyer meeting. The lawyer called at 8 a.m. sharp. We talked for an hour. He asked the right questions, took detailed notes, and gave me the advice I needed to hear. Public witnesses to her statements will be valuable. The restaurant staff, other diners, anyone who heard what she said. Document everything. Keep every text message. Record every call if your state allows it. I'm not trying to destroy her, I said. I just want to be free. I understand. But she's going to fight this. People who see their partners as utility usually don't let go easily. He was right. By noon, my wife had shown up at my office. Security called before letting her up. Your wife is here. She seems very upset. Tell her I'm not available. She says it's an emergency. It's not. Please have her leave. Security called back 5 minutes later. Sir, she's refusing to leave. She's crying in the lobby. Should we call the police? I closed my eyes. Even now, she was performing, creating a scene to force my hand. Tell her if she's not gone in 5 minutes, you will call the police. And tell her I'm documenting this for the restraining order I'm considering. She left in 4 minutes. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Her mother. How could you do this to her? On your anniversary? Did she tell you what she said to me? She said you got upset over some harmless jokes. She told me to pay the bill and leave if I couldn't handle being disrespected. In front of a restaurant full of people. After watching her friends attack me for an hour while she participated. Silence. Then, that doesn't sound like her. It is her. You just haven't seen it because I've been covering for her for years. Her mother's voice got cold. Marriage is about forgiveness. Forgiveness requires remorse. She's not sorry for what she did. She's sorry I left. You're being incredibly selfish. She's your wife. She made a mistake. No, I said, my patience finally snapping. She made a choice. She chose to humiliate me publicly to entertain her friends. She chose to tell me my only value was my wallet. She chose to end our marriage. I just accepted her decision. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. And the fact that you're calling me instead of asking her why she thought it was acceptable tells me everything I need to know about where she learned this behavior. Her mother gasped. How dare you? I dare because I'm done pretending, done covering, done making excuses for inexcusable behavior. If you want to enable her, that's your choice. But I'm not required to participate anymore. I hung up. The calls and messages continued throughout the day, but I'd made my position clear. This wasn't a negotiation. This wasn't a fight I could be talked out of. This was a decision I'd made with absolute clarity, and I wasn't reversing it. By the end of the week, the narrative wars had begun. Her version, devoted wife whose husband abandoned her on their anniversary over a misunderstanding. My version, man who finally stood up after years of diminishing respect. Some people believed her. They always do. It's easier to believe the victim story than to acknowledge that sometimes the victim is the one who walked away. But more people than I expected reached out with support. Friends who'd noticed the dynamic but didn't know how to bring it up. Colleagues who'd seen how she talked to me at company events. Even her uncle, who called to say he was proud of me for finally standing up to her. The divorce papers were filed 2 weeks later. She contested everything, of course. The house, the investments, the savings. She wanted alimony, a split of my retirement, half of everything I'd built. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd said what she really thought in public, with witnesses. The restaurant manager submitted a statement. So did 3 other diners who'd heard the exchange. Even the quiet friend, apparently feeling guilty, wrote a letter confirming the events of that night. The lawyer called it a gift. She handed you the evidence on a silver platter. It took 8 months to finalize. 8 months of legal battles, angry messages, and her trying every manipulation tactic she'd perfected over 12 years. Tears, rage, bargaining, guilt trips. She cycled through them all. But I never wavered. Because every time I felt myself weakening, I remembered her face that night. The way she'd lit up when her friends were tearing me down. The casual cruelty in her voice when she told me to pay and go. That woman didn't deserve my sympathy. She'd made her choice. On the day the divorce was finalized, I drove past Meridian Prime, the restaurant where my marriage had ended. I thought about going in, maybe thanking Thomas the manager for his support. Instead, I kept driving. That chapter was closed. That version of me, the one who'd accepted less and less respect until there was nothing left, was gone. What remained was someone who knew his worth and wouldn't settle for anything less. I sold the house and moved across town. Started fresh in a place with no memories of who I used to be. Some nights were harder than others. 12 years doesn't disappear just because you want it to. But I never regretted walking out that night. Never second-guessed my decision to choose dignity over comfort. Never wished I'd stayed and accepted her apology that wouldn't have meant anything anyway. Because here's what I learned. You can't love someone who doesn't respect you. You can provide for them, accommodate them, support them. But without respect, it's not a marriage. It's just a transaction where one person pays and the other takes until there's nothing left. I chose to stop paying. And that choice saved my life. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into the quiet friend at a coffee shop. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, like she'd been caught somewhere she shouldn't be. I'm sorry, she said before I could speak. For that night. For not saying anything. I should have stood up for you. Why didn't you? She looked down at her coffee. Because I was afraid if I defended you, I'd lose them too. And I thought it wasn't my place to interfere in someone else's marriage. But it was their place to destroy it. I know. I've thought about that a lot. She looked up at me. For what it's worth, my husband and I talked about it. What we witnessed. He said if I ever treated him like that, he'd leave too. It made me realize how toxic they all are. Are you still friends with them? No. I stopped returning their calls after that night. I couldn't unsee it, you know? The way they enjoyed hurting you. The way she encouraged it. She paused. She tells people you abandoned her because you couldn't handle her success. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Let her tell whatever story helps her sleep at night. I know the truth. So do I. So does anyone who was actually paying attention that night. We talked for a few more minutes. then parted ways. I never saw her again, but that conversation stayed with me. A reminder that truth has a way of emerging, no matter how many layers of fiction get piled on top. My ex-wife remarried within 2 years. A guy she met at one of her friends' parties. I heard about it through mutual acquaintances, along with details I didn't ask for. Apparently, he's wealthy, accommodating, and willing to fund her lifestyle without complaint. In other words, she found another wallet with legs. One that hasn't learned to walk away yet. I don't feel sorry for him. Everyone makes their own choices. He'll figure it out eventually, or he won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. As for me, I'm still learning what it means to be enough on my own. To not need someone else's approval to feel valuable. To set boundaries and keep them, even when it's uncomfortable. Some days are easier than others. But every single day, I wake up in a space where I'm respected, where my worth isn't questioned, where I don't have to perform or provide to justify my existence. And that space, even when it's just me in it, is worth more than 12 years of diminishing returns. The anniversary of that night comes around every year. I don't celebrate it, but I don't ignore it either. I remember it as the night I chose myself. The night I walked away from someone who saw me as a transaction and toward a future where I'm seen as a person. People ask if I regret it. If I wish I'd tried harder, given her another chance, worked through it like couples are supposed to do. My answer is always the same. I don't regret leaving someone who told me to leave. I regret taking 12 years to do it. But I'm grateful too. Grateful she finally showed me who she really was. Grateful for the clarity that came from hearing the truth spoken out loud. Grateful I had the strength to walk away when she thought I wouldn't. That night at Meridian Prime, she said, "If you can't take a joke, pay and go." So I did, just not the way she expected. And I've never looked back.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.